Hi, welcome to the Rebel Ballerina Show. And I am your host, Lisa Loree. And today I have the privilege of having my first interview. I'm so excited. And I got to meet Renee just by a few happenstances, which were really cool. We ran into each other at a couple of different stores locally and just struck up conversation. There she is. There's Renee. Renee Hader, everyone. And so yeah, we had a couple of conversations, and I don't know, it was just through those conversations we kind of felt I think an energy, or like a hey, we have a lot in common kind of thing and we should talk. And she does these great seminars, and I was able to go to one. It was so fantastic, called this one in particular was the Beauty of You workshop, and I participated in that, and that was really really great. I enjoyed it very much and definitely felt like, yeah, we have a lot of the same stuff going on. So I don't want to take up all the time talking about me because I really want to get to your story. So, welcome, Renee. I am so glad that you're here and that we're able to get through the technical glitchies. And thanks to my producer, Jim, to help get this stuff together, and the helpful folks at Apple, so that we could be here side by side on screen. And so I just wanted to hear your story, just how you ended up putting together these wonderful seminars and workshops. What brought you to that?
Gosh, that's I always get a little stumped when somebody asks me about my story because it just goes back so many decades, so many years. And what I found over the years when I like write it out, because parts of it were very difficult, writing it all out. And I thought, you know what? It really is our story, because we as women and just human beings being on planet Earth, we are born into a lot of disempowerment and dysfunction. And the way I look at it, it's like this generational pain. And I think that we're in a time in history right now where we're learning that we need to change and grow and elevate our consciousness. And, life is all about change and growth and transformation from conception to birth onward. We're always changing and growing. So part of my story, I think that, I share this story with respect and love for everybody that I'm about to share with you. I have no more emotional charge, or I don't feel like I'm not stuck in that. Sometimes we get stuck in the forgiveness, like you got to forgive this, you got to forgive that. And then there's a part of you that just says, but I was hurt so badly. If I forgive, am I going to set myself up to have it happen again? Because I'm just making myself more vulnerable. And for me, what I discovered is that I came to a place where I understood, like, oh, I understand why certain people will do certain things that are hurtful. And that's helped me a lot in my journey. And I think, God love her, my mom, she was on her own journey. And I don't think my mom, when she had me, she was actually a performer. She was a singer. She had a beautiful voice. She performed. Her and my dad fell in love. They got married. My dad was going to dental school to be a dentist at the time. They were living with my dad's mom and dad, my grandparents. And there was a lot of friction between my mom and my grandma Linda, my dad's mom, and just friction, friction, friction. So you can imagine the stress that kind of rolled forward. Need a little baby.
Yes.
And other things that my mom, went through, and things that happened to her as a child that we don't really even understand. When I later in life, because I ended up being her caregiver for several years, she's still alive, by the way. I had quite a few conversations with her. I'm like, Mom, when I was little, there were so many hurtful things. Mainly it was just overly controlling and saying things that are not very nice. And I'd never felt like I could have a relationship with my mom.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of hurtful things that happened. So later in life, there we are. She's, with a walker, not having a lot of physical freedom anymore, and I was taking care of her. And I just said, I want to come from a place of love and understanding. I want to thank you as my mom. And I also, as an adult now, just want to share with you that there were certain things in my childhood that were really hurtful to me. And, she didn't remember a lot of them.
Hmm.
She's like, I said that. And what I realized was my mom took time to, I understand now she's probably on a spectrum, now it's just,
Mm.
you could be ADHD all the way to full blown autism. And now they just put you all on the spectrum.
Right.
So I didn't understand that growing up. And, um, she said to me, she goes, you know what? I really didn't have a normal childhood. Her and her mother, my grandma Jeannie, which I talk about all the time, was amazing. They loved each other so much. But there were, I guess, my mom's grandfather that also came to live in the house because my grandma Jeannie was a single mom, raising my mom. And my grandma worked in a factory in Ohio, Timken Roller Barons. The company is still around today. And there was some kind of abuse. My mom made it sound like, oh, my grandfather was so wonderful and da 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 da, and he worked in politics and he wrote speeches, and I'm sure there were a lot of great things about him, but he was also very abusive. And I only found that out from my aunt, my mom's cousin, who lived in the front house. My grandma Jeannie lived in one house, and then her sister, my aunt, lived in the front house with my mom's cousin. My aunt Rosie ended up telling me we were scared to death of him.
Whoa.
So, and then another time my mom would say, yeah, my grandfather, he was really strict because he loved us. He loved us. He was really, and that was that time period. They thought that, you backhand somebody and knock them over and they hit their head and they think that's discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I know that things of that happened, my mom, and she would sneak out of the house and want to play with her friends because he was so strict, don't,
Hmm.
and she goes, I got, locked in the basement and tied to a chair. And I thought, you know,
Yeah, that's not okay.
no, not at all. And I remember her telling me, and I never knew this about my mom. We lived in this really amazing house at one time, and it was 3 stories, and there was a lower level that was a basement, but it was windows and it was
Oh, okay. Yeah.
cool. But she was afraid to go down those steps because we had like a whole media room down there where we would watch movies and stuff. And she told me that, it took time for her to even just go down into that kind of lower. So you can imagine. And my point in all this is that what helped me through this process of healing was to understand that there's a lot of generational pain. And we as women, I believe, all generations, I like to say we're all generations strong, that we can now come together because we all have different gifts and talents and stories to share, and we can become one generation strong. And within that generation, we form a new era of women. So that's part of my story. And then another part of my story was I was in a relationship with a very um, gifted photographer, and it turns out that he had some issues, and it wasn't right away, but we found out later that he had Asperger's. He was on the spectrum for Asperger's, and I watched that over time develop because they self medicate because I didn't understand and he didn't understand that there were just certain things that were challenging to his nervous system, and then he turned very narcissistic because of it. And that period of my life was, when it did get when it escalated, not in the beginning, because there was a lot of
Hmm.
great things, and was a very good person as well, and he never meant for it to get to the way it did. But I barely got out of there. And I remember the day I finally decided to leave because I kept thinking, and I think a lot of your viewers may feel this way too. If only I did this, if only I did that, if I love this person more, if I was the buffer. I know, like in your podcast, I've listened to a few of them. We're the buffer. Can I get you some,
Hmm.
like you said, and I learned over time that he wasn't really willing to look at his stuff, you know. And if somebody isn't willing, that's the one thing that I would say. If someone isn't willing to change, if they're not willing to look at things and do things differently, if they're always deflecting to you and blaming you,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we disappear. We lose our spirit, lower, 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 lower. And I got to where I could barely function. And I remember thinking, do I, like you know, shared your story with me, do I really even want to be here anymore? Like it like got to the point where I could barely function. And so when I finally left, I planned my leaving, and I was walking down a hallway to go out into the parking lot in my car, and I literally felt like there was an angel on each side of me. Like, you know, and I believe that I do believe in angels. You know, over time, it's like, you know, what is my belief system? I grew up in a religious family, but it was very, again, good-hearted people, you know, good-hearted people. But there were aspects of that were very disempowering for me personally. And but I do remember and I love God with all my heart. So, you know, I'm not a religious person, but I'm very, very spiritual. And I remember once my dad told us a story that we were all driving. We had a banquet facility and a restaurant in the LA area, and we were driving home late at night from an event. And my dad heard this voice that said, "David, stop the car." And he just slammed on his brakes and found out that if he hadn't done that, we would have been hit by this runaway car. Like, at such high impact that my dad said, you know, the impact was so high, we would have just been, you know, we would have died. So, you know, you look back over your life and you see what you've lived through, and you see the help and the things that you never could have imagined that came your way to help, a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back now, there's no emotional charge like there used to be. I'd go down the bunny trail, you know, why this person, da 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 da. And when I came from the aspect of understanding, one, trust myself that it's not going to happen again, because now I'm smarter. Because for a time it was like, oh man, you know, what if that happens again? I'm like, no. I mean, I can smell it a mile away at this point in my life, you know. And I just, like I said, I have the understanding that, you know, we are born into this kind of disempowerment as, you know, families, and then they pass it along. And then we're born into a world that's partly chaotic. You know, like when you look at the natural world, how beautiful nature is, and so many wonderful things for us to enjoy. Like by design, we're designed to enjoy life, to love each other, to create, you know, unlimited things. Like look at things like this computer and airplanes and houses and electricity. Like as human beings, we're just so unlimited, but we were never taught to develop that or encourage, you know. So I guess you could say my story, I feel like I've come full circle with the pain of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that happens is isolation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in that much pain, we isolate. But I never gave up on, you know, I'm always writing, you know, ideas, putting together this and that, and I consider myself an empowerment coach. Empowerment and vitality is what I bring. And then the workshops is another level, which, you know, is so magical. Like the women get together, like you were there, it was so great having you. And we get to share our stories, and you see that you're not alone, and also that you inspire each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it's come to this beautiful full circle. And now, after years of caregiving for both parents, my dad passed in 2019, and my mom took a final fall. So we found a full time residential care home, which is nice. It's like living with the family, and I go visit her all the time. And my mom and I have come full circle with each other, and I never ever thought that that was possible. So
Wow.
beauty, if you just don't give up, and just don't give up. You know, there's a lot of beauty to be had.
So that it's an amazing story, and yes, a lot of similarities to where we were on in certain times of those our respective paths. Where does your dad fit into all of this?
Wow, my dad. everybody always loved my dad. My dad, he was an elder in the church that he was in. So he was always giving, talks from the stage and counseling people. So I think like, wow, so I'm a speaker and kind of like a counselor myself. My dad was very uh, a gentle person and always helping people, very spiritual person. And the dynamic between my mom and dad, when I was a child, there, because my grandma Linda comes into it, my dad's
Mm,
mom. And so my mom would feel like, why aren't you sticking up for me? Why are you siding with your mom? And it was really hard because we talked about that later in life. And so my mom, as the years passed, I was, a child. I always remember her, kind of being critical of my dad and it always hurt me. So I was like trying to intervene all the time and defend my dad, and he really wouldn't say a whole lot. And then there were times later as time marched on when my dad, he was frustrated with my mom and he'd probably say some things that weren't all that great. And so like the communication thing, but they loved
mhm,
each other and they were good parents. They were always responsible. But my dad was like a rock, he was a rock of the family, provider, protector. I had a lot of respect and love for my dad. And so he was a good guy. At least I'm glad that he modeled, what a healthy man was.
uh-huh. But would you say that he struggled standing up to his mom and also standing up to your mom?
Yeah, like communication. And my dad, it's interesting because he wasn't verbally expressive.
Mhm,
So he wasn't the kind of dad that would say, I love you or anything like that. And I just never knew any different. But now I look back and go, wow, that's kind of hard that you don't really hear either parent. It's not that they didn't, it's not that they didn't. And later in life, when my dad was literally on his deathbed, um, right before he slipped into like the transition and
mhm,
he knew he was going to die. And so we were all around his bed, my mom, me, my sister, my nephew, my cousin, and her husband. And my mom was this is so interesting how what really matters in life is going to be illustrated here in about a minute. And he looked at my mom and he took her hand and he looked into her eyes and he goes, "You're my sweetheart. You were always my sweetheart." And he goes, "My mom, she just she just couldn't." And my mom goes, I know, David, I know. At the end of my grandma Linda's life, my mom stepped up and was taking care of her.
mm,
And my grandma had a caregiver, but every now and then there were gaps.
mm.
My grandma Linda finally, right before she died, she goes, "Your mom, she's such a good woman." So
Wow.
they came full circle. And so my dad said that to my mom, and then to me, he looked at me and he said, "I love you, Renee." He goes, "Don't doubt me," and he said it 3 times.
Hmm,
So what really matters at the end, I try to look at life this way. I have a philosophy of life. What really matters in the end is that we love each other, and life is a series of experiences and moments, and to live more in those moments, because at the end, you know, if you live it well and you keep your heart somewhat open, it's just all about doing our best, understanding each other, and just trusting that most people, there are people that don't fall into this category, but most people are doing the best they can.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that like you're doing the workshops and things to promote, like you were just saying, let's build up the energy. Let's live in more of those moments, right? And I'm on the same wavelength as in let's break that pattern so that we can do that one generation as you were talking about and trying to reach people instead of it having to wait until the end.
Yes.
Because it's like there's there's a lot of stuff before the end. And so if we could reduce that time, and I sometimes I kind of giggle, I guess, in a way, because it's those very things in my life that have now brought me to where I am. And it's like, it's not that we want to take away anything that's painful, but to help people through that and reduce the time that they have to be there, I guess, is what
Absolutely.
I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And when you say that, Lisa, it makes me think that, like, if I could go back in my journey and what were the things that would have helped me heal faster?
Right.
And there's a few things. I think there's different stages. When we're in a situation like that, we turn invisible,
Mm-hmm.
and the focus and attention is constantly on the person that's hurting you and trying to protect yourself, fight or flight, freeze, fawn, the whole thing. And I realized that when I came out of it, that, and then I went right into caregiving my dad, and then he passed, and then my mom, and
Right.
I didn't have a chance to really just because I was,
Breathe.
yeah, just because I was out of the environment of the relationship, I didn't realize that I was going into another environment of emergency all the time and being the caregiver and not, you know? So I thank
Yeah.
God for my morning time. I'm an early person. And so no matter what's been going on in my life, I always get up early, do my writing, my reading, like whatever, go for a walk, like whatever it is. And I really believe that that can save us, having that first part of the day, no matter how much little or much time you can have. The other thing is that I would get involved in a lot of videos showing, like, this is what a narcissist is. This is what, because I needed to make sense of what happened to me.
Right.
Like, I'm an intelligent person. Like, why did this happen to me, and why couldn't I get out of it? And it changes your brain, all these scientific things, and so
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, it was very helpful because, like, I could put the dots together. And the person speaking on the video they were the experts in the field. And I felt like I'm finally getting the guidance and the direction that I need and the validation. I think that's the word.
Yes.
I see
Yeah.
you, I hear you.
And
Valid.
you're not crazy.
Yes, yes. There's nothing wrong with you. And so, but I stayed in that for a little too long because that's kind of like where it felt safe to me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
finally realized, gosh, I know enough. So another thing that I think is important is our identity. Many, many years ago, I went to a Tony Robbins certification program in Maui.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really fun. That was like the beginning of my education, so many years ago. Did the fire walk, the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And it's interesting because anybody can do it. And it just shows how powerful your mindset is, your belief, and you can literally walk on burning embers. That's how powerful your brain and your body are working together. And I said to him, because I was doing a lot of educational stuff at the time, and I said, Tony, what's the one thing in life that will determine, what's the one thing that moves the needle, that's so important with us as people? And he said, your identity, like how you see yourself in life, will determine what you do and what you will not do. So part of my work that I do with women is years and years ago, I did a handful of biographies, life story work with a handful of clients. And I noticed when I had people talk about their lives, there were highlights that came up. They went through hard times, they went through great times. And the experience of recalling their life in an uninterrupted conversation, like it's all about in coaching and story work, it's all about that person. And we don't get that kind of conversations in everyday life. Like even you interviewing me, this is a unique experience because in everyday life it's usually back and forth, or sometimes people monopolize the conversation. You never get a word in edgewise. But to be able to focus on you and the beauty in you and your life and how strong you are. And yes, we went through some very hard times, but what did you learn from it? And what have you created? And what are you up to now? Like, what are you passionate about now? It's such a beautiful process.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bring that into the work that I do. That's basically where we start. So people can see themselves in a new empowered way. And then from there, it's a process of, well, what lights you up? What makes you happy? Because that's going to pull us forward. And I would just encourage all of us to not get stuck in the identity or the story. I like to look at it like the creative process is you have the big picture, what you want, who you are, what you would ideally like your life to be. And then we do a snapshot of current reality. We don't make it better than it is. We don't make it worse than it is. Like, where are we right now in time? And then where's the gap? So from
Mm-hmm.
where you are to where you want to go, what are the steps that we need to take? And what kind of gets in the way? What could throw us off? What could become challenging? And so we plan that out and we have conversations about that. And then with that said, nothing, life is all about changes and it doesn't always go.
Right.
And living in the mystery of that, like living, and this is what I'm really coming into more and more now, more than ever, living in that present moment, not having to figure out where do you want to be in a year and 10 years. And well, I know who I am. I know what I want. I know what my values are. So let's get lined up with the values. I know what I would like to create. You know, what do you love? That says a lot about who we are. And stay focused on that because we get the life we focus on. At any given moment,
Absolutely.
don't you see that, Lisa? Like in every given moment, we can turn on the news and get knocked off our rocker. Like sometimes I don't follow a lot because I just can't. But I learned like the worst things because my friends know to inform me, or I'll pop in and out. And once in a while, like just take me out for 3 days. So, and I tell myself that in any given moment, there's all these beautiful things happening at the exact same time. So,
Yes.
many ways to live a lifetime. How do we want to live our lifetime? Stay focused on that. Bring those kind of people into your life to support you. And if I may, when we met, one of my favorite stories is here in the area, Organic Roots Market. And I remember it like it's right in front of me right now. And you were checking out, and you were wearing this beautiful flowy short skirt and these high heels. And I looked at you and I went, oh my God, she's so beautiful. And she has the most beautiful legs. Like, who has legs like that? And so I gave you a compliment and I just said, well, you have the most beautiful legs. And you said, oh, thank you. And I said, how do you stay in shape? And you said, I'm a ballerina. And I'm like, oh my God. You're like, you had me at hello. Like when I was a little girl, like most little girls, we like, our ballet lessons and all that. And so that was that. And then in December, I was shopping at a store with my friend Monica for Christmas ornaments. And I didn't know it was you. I didn't even know your name. And I'm like, Monica, look at that woman. Look at her. So feminine. Look at those beautiful legs and how she's dressed. And I'm like, I got to go say something. I can't not compliment her. And it turned out to be you again. Oh my God, this has got to be meant to be. And then I just happened to have the invitation to my workshop in the purse.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come as my guest. And so that, follow those whims and be in the moments. Like if I wasn't in the
Uh-huh.
moment, I might not have even seen you. And if I wasn't in the moment, I might not have been in touch with my desire to go up and compliment you.
Say something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that it is the funniest way to have met twice.
Like, you know what? How many more times do I have to meet this lady before we need to get in a conversation?
Right. Right. But I love what you're saying. I mean, thank you for the compliments, by the way. I love that too. But no, I love what you're saying about we do get what we want. We just don't necessarily know that we're asking for certain things.
Yeah.
So we end up with a lot of stuff we don't want, but we don't realize that it's because that's what we've actually asked for.
Mhm.
So it's like creating by default.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so, like you, it's once I understood that and had already gone 50 years of all kinds of crazy and definitely incredible disempowerment to the point, like, that I wanted to leave the planet,
Yeah.
and was with my ex, who definitely narcissistic. And I came to that point and then made these discoveries about how I create my life. That's what was the turning point for me,
Yeah.
was hearing that. And I was incensed at first because I thought, you're insane. I would not bring this upon myself,
Mhm.
you know, which is also true. I would not knowingly bring this upon myself. But that's the rub.
Mhm.
Like you're saying, we're not taught how to create. We're not taught how this stuff works when we're little kids.
Yeah.
And so therefore we grow up unknowing of the power that we actually have. And then as adults, as autonomous beings, we have no idea that every choice that we're making is impacting, but
Mm.
it's still a choice. It's still a choice. So you can choose to continue to be a victim
Mhm.
in those circumstances that may be like what some of the stuff we both have gone through, to a point where you don't even want to be here anymore. That's pretty severe.
Mhm.
That's pretty severe. But do you want to stay there? Or how long are you going to stay there? You
And
know?
at least I think the other thing that comes into play is, so we have okay, so we're trying to save people, heal people, be their buffer,
Yeah,
That's one thing I want to say about that is and for the people listening, don't take that for granted about yourself. That's a really beautiful quality to have.
it is.
Here's how we can offset it though. Like, I don't want the people that may be hurting me in life to change me in that way. Like, I don't want to change who I am because I've been hurt. So
Mhm.
here's the thing that helped me is I raised my standards. So it's like, okay, I'm going to stay who I am, and I'm going to raise my standards. And this is what I said to myself that helped in the relationships with, not getting involved with another narcissist. I only want people in my life that treat me as well as I treat them. And I treat people really well. So if somebody can't meet me on that level,
Mhm.
how easy is that? Bye.
Yeah. See, I call it growing antlers because I know that I'm a fawn,
Mm-hmm.
and I took on that fawn uh, response pattern as a survival response. And you're right. I don't want to change the fact that I am giving and caring and empathetic, and I like people to be happy, that sort of thing. And I genuinely believe that we all come here
Yeah.
with that in place. I really do. I believe that we are all good and that we have those attributes. And then it gets squashed out of us as we grow. Or it becomes so deeply ingrained in the survival mechanism, such as a fawn, that then we just default to that all the time, and we forget how to just be giving for the sake of giving instead of out of fear. So that's where it switches for me, is learning how to discern and grow some antlers so that you can keep giving, you can still be the caring, empathetic, wonderful person. You're just very much more discerning on who you're going to share that with.
Yeah. And you take care of yourself. Like,
Mhm.
okay, so if I'm in a situation and somebody is draining me, you know, you pay attention to, is this the kind of relationship that makes me happy, or is it draining all the time? And
Right.
it's not to judge anybody. It's that it's my preference to not be around maybe this sort type of personality. And then
Well, it's a protection.
yes,
You're protecting yourself and you have the right. And that's one of those things I had to learn. Took a while, that I am actually valuable.
hmm
And it's so weird to say that even now. of myself, but to acknowledge that I don't have to take that energy from someone else
Right.
when, like you said, it's draining or demeaning or whatever, then we actually have a choice in that.
Yeah. Stay aware. Just stay. Everything in
Mhm.
life is about being aware and conscious. If we're not aware, then how can we be present? How can we grow? How can we make choices? So just be aware of that, and not self-sacrificing. Like, yeah, okay, I could stay in that conversation or that relationship or that event or whatever it is. But as time marches on, we realize how precious it is, and I'm just not willing to give up my moments.
Right, right. Well, now that you've made all of these incredibly important, pertinent discoveries for yourself, and you're sharing them, like your workshops and things. What's next for you? What are you doing now?
Well, you know what, Lisa, I love that question, is just rolling it out. So I have the Vitality Workshop, which is hosted by Citrus and Moss in Old Town Temecula once a month.
Ah,
And that's free. So everybody can come. Like if you go to my Instagram page, you'll see the Vitality Workshop. And then you text me. Thank you, Jim. You, you text me, and then I'll let you know the dates and the times, because what we're doing now is we're expanding. And we've got a couple more people in the works that'll be hosting the free events, like the Vitality Workshop. So there's two or three more in the works right now. We're going to roll that out big time. That's all inclusive. So there's certain things that are free and certain things that are for a fee. So I,
uh-huh.
I don't want a fee to ever stop somebody from coming into the community. And so that's that. And then that's an hour and a half experience. And then the beauty of you is the deep
Mhm.
dive, and that's
Right.
3.5 hour. And we're rolling that out. We're going to have another one this Saturday at the Italian Bottega Italia in Old Town, right next to the yoga
Ooh.
studio. And it's a beautiful restaurant. So it's a bit of an experiment, because it's a restaurant. So we're going to have
Right.
a table. It's going to be very small, very intimate. And where I'm going with, and then one of my coaching clients, the beautiful Erin, the one you went to, hosted in her wonderful home.
Yes.
So we're rolling it out, and I'm just open for the locations, and just rolling both of those things out. And then, of course, people come and they coach with me from that, or
Hmm.
just wherever. It's amazing. People just, we find each other. So between
Yes.
one to one, and then the free group event that's 90 minutes, and then the deep dive, roll up your sleeves, interactive workshop, the beauty of you, just to roll it out. And it's so amazing, because I said, I don't have my own podcast yet, but I want to in the future. I just want to be a guest on other people's podcasts right now.
Well,
And
there you
then boom, comes our ballerina. So
go. How fun is that?
it's amazing. It's really fun. Yeah.
It's those things that we know are synchronicities.
Yeah.
Some people go, "What a coincidence!" It's like, no,
Maybe the longer I live, the way I see that, maybe not. Yeah. Yeah.
orchestrated.
Yeah. And I think one other thing I'd like to say about all that is that the women that have come to these events and come to the table, it's just been so fascinating to me. This event has attracted a lot of big-hearted women.
Hmm.
So the words like vitality and beauty, they attract a certain kind of person, and they've just been so freely vulnerable and sharing, and we've laughed, we've cried, uh, people have made friends,
Hmm.
and people are coming from long distance. We have a few people that come from long distances to attend, and locally. And so I want to build a community of this new era, this new generation, because the other thing that I have found is that a lot of people are saying, I want to go meet people, like-minded people. Where do I go to do that?
Right.
And people are at a loss. Some people are at a loss. I think that 2020 we were already going towards the isolation, and then that kind of finished us off.
Right.
all this fear, and then we got a little too comfortable at home in our pajamas. And I actually do have, I don't have my pajama bottoms on now, but I'm fully dressed for the, but yeah, all about, Zooms and not getting together live. It's just kind of played out.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about the live getting together. And I think
Yes.
it's so important. We're living in a time where that's actually, marketing experts are saying that, people really, they want to get together. They want quality friendship.
Mhm.
Because here's the thing, friends are very important, and the quality of that friendship and being on
Mhm.
the same page, because not everybody is in the same mindset or consciousness as the next person. Some people are so, I just had a coaching client, we just got off the phone, and she was talking about the holidays, and it was a little frustrating for her because a lot of people just weren't present, like you really couldn't
Mm.
have them. And I said, well, I just, I heard this, about a week ago, not everybody is at the same level of consciousness as you might be. You've done a lot of work, you're aware,
Right.
you're in, and that person is tripped up and stuff. And she goes, that really helped me because it helped me to not be frustrated with that person.
They are there. They are where they are is where they are.
Everybody's on their own journey in life.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's the other thing is making friends and having conversations that are meaningful, that matter. And it's not about a bunch of, how's the weather and problems, because when you listen to any conversation, like go to a restaurant and just kind of listen, that people are normally usually talking about problems and things that they're going through. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they get stuck in that.
Yes.
And so the conversation is like, oh my God, I want to cough up a lung here. I just got, so but these conversations by design are designed to bring out, what's meaningful to you, to be uplifting. We talk about how important it is as women to be lit up and to be led by what makes us happy. And like the French
Yes.
say that, je ne sais quoi, that certain something, to walk into the room and be the light in the room, or the
Mhm.
legs in your, the light, or if you're Lisa, be the legs.
Well, thank you. Hopefully my legs are lighty.
Yeah, well, they lit up the whole store that we were in. So,
Well, thank you.
what it symbolizes, though, Lisa, it's not just the surface part of it. It symbolizes
Mhm.
a woman who is dedicated. Because to
Mm.
be a ballerina, be a professional ballerina, um, that takes a lot of dedication, and you've got to be in your body, and you don't give up, and it's an amazing thing to accomplish. I always felt that dancers have the most beautiful bodies because they're very feminine, and so
Yeah, ballet tends to create long and lean muscles instead of bulky.
ah,
And so even the guys, I mean, they're sculpted. I call it ballet sculpted body. And the guys are extraordinary as well, even though they tend to take on a little bit more bulk just because of the male physiology,
yeah,
but it's still lean
mm,
and long, and it makes me laugh. I mean, this is bad, but when when we go to the gym and I see these short guys pumping iron, and I'm like, I really want to go over and tell them, you're making yourself shorter.
interesting.
You're appearing shorter because the muscles are bulking. Whereas if you were taking ballet and lengthening those muscles, you would appear taller. I'm
Mm,
only 5'4", and people always guess that I am 5'7", and that's not wearing my heels. That's
wow,
when I'm flat-footed, and people always assume that I'm taller than I am, but that's because of ballet.
that's amazing. You're working with
So,
the body, right? It's
yes.
natural. Ballet is more of a natural movement, so you're working by your design. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But thank you again. But yes, I love that you have all these means of women to get together. And you're right, it is necessary, and it's becoming even more necessary, especially after this day and age of the whole COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
fiasco, and what that has done to us as individuals and as communities in the world at large, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, please check out Renee on Instagram and go to one of these events, because I've gone to the Beauty of You, and that was so fun. And I have to say, it was really nice. Yes, it is small, so that's nice too. But you yourself help bring about a safe
Yeah.
atmosphere and environment, which is obviously entirely helpful
Mhm.
for people to be able to open up and share what's really going on in their lives in a meaningful way,
Yeah.
not to just rant.
Exactly. And we want to keep the conversation elevated. And I came across a saying, I don't know where I heard it, but it hit me so hard. It was in a good way. And it said, um, when we feel loved, we feel safe.
Right.
So think about that. When we feel loved, we feel safe. And when we feel safe, then we can fully express. We can take
Hmm.
risks. We can do all the things. And so, we pay attention to loving ourselves, giving us the care,
Hmm.
this body, this is our experience through life, and it's a miracle. And so to
Yeah.
love our body, love ourselves, what you love and respect, you will take care of. And then from there, we feel loved on a spiritual level. I believe that, we are born into this beautiful world. Like I'm looking at the birds and the trees outside my window right now, and all the colors, and
Hmm.
the sun comes up, the sun goes down. We don't have to worry about that. Do you ever go to bed at night and go, oh my God, what if the sun doesn't come up tomorrow? Like we never even have to think about that.
Right.
Our heart's been beating this whole time. Like there's
Without a thought.
yeah. So we are loved. We are loved. And I know there's a lot of things that interfere with us feeling that way.
Hmm.
And so that's why I love to always bring that aspect in, that this fingerprint, only one. Isn't that is such a message?
It's
Why isn't that on
extraordinary.
the billboard? Why isn't that on the news? Like,
Right.
why isn't
Right.
what a miracle our bodies are? And this is a gift.
Yeah.
So even not even, but from that foundation, you can feel loved. No matter
Hmm.
what a person is going through, just know that as long as you're breathing, you're loved.
Yes. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, but it has been such a fun pleasure to have you on the Rebel Ballerina Show. And if check this out, check out Renee on Instagram, go to one of her events, because it is really fun, amazing, challenging, maybe a little, depending on what's going on.
Grow.
There can be tears. They could be your tears. They could be somebody else's tears.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's also a lot of laughter.
Oh, a
There
lot.
was a lot of laughter. It was a lot of fun.
We have a good
Um,
time. We have a good
yeah, yeah. And I just so appreciate not only what you're doing, the message that you're bringing, but I just so appreciate you. And I appreciate you being here and taking some time out to be on the Rebel Ballerina Show.
Thank
I
you, Lisa.
really am so grateful.
Honored a million times over to be your guest. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, Jim, the producer, is going to close down the viewing, but please stay on,
Okay.
and then we'll chat in just a little bit.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for joining us.